Hi everyone, this is Anna Finch from Finch Press Publishing. I hope everyone has had a good day. Now, today's video is a book review of a novel called 100 Days of Sunlight by Abbie Emmons. She is an independent author and YouTuber. She has videos about how to write a story, things like story structure, things like how to hook in an audience. She has a lot of videos about writing and tips, and you should check them out. They are brilliant. Now, the novel 100 Days of Sunlight is a romance, or I think romance novel. I don't typically read romance. I don't generally really like it, but I picked this up partly because the cover looks really nice, and the story itself, the blurb actually seemed interesting, because this story is about a poetry blogger, so 16-year-old poetry blogger called Tessa Dickinson, who's involved in a car accident and loses her sight for 100 days, and she basically feels that her whole world has been turned upside down. She's basically afraid that her vision will never come back, but her grandparents put an ad in the paper for a typist, so someone who can write, type up and upload her poems to her blog for her, in order to get her back into something that she loves. And in comes Weston. Now, he's a boy her age. He's optimistic, and he's also an amputee. He doesn't have legs. He knows what Tessa is feeling, and how angry and afraid she is, and he thinks he can help her. But his only condition is no one can tell Tessa about his disability. And because she can't see him, she treats him horribly to begin with. So screaming at him, telling him to never come back, making a poem that's supposed to, I think, make fun of him. They both end up laughing and reacting to it. But for Weston, that is something amazing, because he's treated like a normal person, because she doesn't know about his disability. And he keeps on coming back. Now, Tessa is convinced that he doesn't know what she's going through, but he does, and they eventually grow closer together, and he hasn't told her the truth. And when her eyesight returns, he basically leaves. Tessa has to try and convince him to come back, and she does accept him at the end, which I think is lovely. But the idea of this person, of a character losing their eyesight for 100 days and having to relearn who they are and relearn how to interact with people, is interesting, and that's basically what convinced me to buy the book. And I really liked it. It took me, once I started reading it, I basically read it all in one sitting and finished it in, what's the time now? I finished it in probably about 2 hours. It's not that long, but I actually sped through it because I was actually really interested, and the characters were believable. You actually felt for the characters. They didn't feel like characters. They felt like real people with their real struggles. And they honestly both acted like teens are supposed to act, rather than adults that are called teens. So they actually act like the teenagers they're supposed to be. Weston, especially, he's a kid who's gone through a lot, especially in the situation where you see what happened to him and what caused him to get his legs amputated. The recklessness, the belief that he's kind of invincible, and that sort of stuff is things teenagers would act. He acted like an actual teenager, and I really, really like this. The characters are amazing. I think I've already said that, but they were absolutely amazing. They felt like real people, and you cared about them. You cared about their struggles. You cared about whether or not the Tessa found out about his disability. You wanted to know how would she react, and it's really, really good. The romance isn't very heavy in this. It's still a romance because the Tessa and Weston fall in love, and there's conflict connected to that love. But it's not a heavy romance which is overly like sappy. It's fairly cute. The way they interact with each other, the way they talk with each other, and the way they realize their feelings. It's actually a sort of really cute romance. It's not over the top with romantic gestures and things like that. It is the romantic plot line. It's like, so if I watch a movie with romance in it, same with books, if the romance is heavy, as in like sappy sort of talking, like lovers staring at each other's eyes, and completely like right in your face, I don't really get into it and I get bored. But with this, and same with movies, but with this, the romance is woven in with the other issues, and it's not like throwing in your face, yeah, they're in love, they're in love, they're in love. It's more subtle than that. It's more interesting, and it makes you, like, at the end, makes you feel like going, oh, how cute, and all that sort of stuff. It gives you, like, nice fuzzy feelings, which is good, because I'm glad it wasn't over the top and like sappy sort of romance. It was fairly cute and fairly subtle. They both had other problems, and they were slowly growing and developing as people. And it was really, really lovely. I really, really liked it. The formatting of the book is good. I like how you've got poems like throughout the actual story. I like that you've actually got poems throughout the whole story, and because I like poetry and I actually write poetry, it's the main thing I normally write. So novel writing isn't something I've done like extensively before. Voiceless, which is my novel that I'm planning on publishing this year. But poetry, short stories were things that I had written, and I like seeing poetry in books. I like how it connects with the story. It gives you little, and some stories they just pop a poem in there and there's no real context. But this one, the poems actually connect with whatever has happened in the scene before. Like the poem about Weston, how she's in the poem, she's like that, he's like a paradox, and how the poem slowly grows over time, and it gives you a bit of an idea of how far Tessa has come when it comes to her emotions. With this poem, page 185, it's the same poem that was on a previous page, like a few chapters back, but it's had more added to it, because her feelings have changed, have grown, and you get a little hint about what's inside her head when it comes to her emotions, and you see how she perceives him as well, how Weston is a paradox, how he's bright and then soft. That is how, because how she says that without him, that she's invisible. She makes him see, or he makes her see, sorry. And it's really, really lovely. I really like this. I've read stories with romance before, and was disappointed. Usually because it's over the top and there's no other like problems or plot woven in besides romance. But this had other issues, things like dealing with disability, how people view those with disability, and how people with disabilities could view themselves, and it's really good. I really, really like this. I do recommend getting it. I would give this 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. I'm planning on doing a review on Goodreads because this is really good, and I would recommend this. Even if romance is not typically your genre, I do recommend this because the romance is more cutesy. It's more like it's more like a romance that will make you go, "Oh, how cute," rather than like an over the top, sappy sort of romance. So this I would definitely recommend. It is really good. And I think it actually represents the disabilities of both people pretty well, with the way it's presented disability, particularly connected to trauma for Tessa. She's in a car accident and she's lost her sight as a direct result of it. Only for 100 days, so they believe it's only for 100 days, not permanent. But she still lost her sight. She's lost something that she had previously and she has to learn how to deal with it. And the way it's presented is realistic. People who go through this are not going to be positive all the time. They will get angry. They will get depressed. It's a part of a process that they deal with. And I think it portrays it really, really, really realistic, which is why I like this. So 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. I would recommend this even for a classroom, like for a book for high school as a text response. It is really good. So in Australian curriculum, like for all year levels, they do things like analyze a text and look at things like themes, character in the text response, and they break down and analyze it. This would be good for year 10 students because they can look at themes in this, things like romance, disability, which is presented in a positive way. Especially the aspect of disability is presented in a positive way rather than a negative one, which is really good, and it sends a really good message to young readers. So yeah, I'd recommend this for year 10s or even higher, even for VCE, which is year 11 and year 12. So senior year, I think, in America, or A levels or GCSEs in England. But I would recommend that for it as well. Now, if it was put on the curriculum, I don't think there's any resources when it comes to things like chapter summaries, theme analysis, and character analysis, because it is, one, it's a self-published book, and two, it is a fairly new novel, so there's not many resources available for it. The language is easily accessible for low-level readers, and because I think the only complicated words are the scientific ones that are used at the beginning to explain the condition that Tessa has, but the language is fairly simple. It's easy to understand, so lower level readers can read it and finish it. There's not many resources for things like chapter summaries, study guides, and stuff like that. There's no audiobook, I believe, so which can be a problem in a classroom. I have had kids in year 9, even in year 9, with literacy levels in primary school, grade 3, 4, which can happen, and it has happened in some of my classrooms. So an audio book for those kids, especially because they had to read the Hunger Games, was extremely helpful because they could listen to the story as it happened, and so they could process it. So for kids who don't have strong reading abilities, especially if it's fairly low, like grade 3, grade 4 level, so primary level, reading will be difficult because the language is not at their level. The story itself is interesting. So as a text for the Australian curriculum, even though there's no real resources to like help support the teaching of this book, I would actually still give it 4 out of 5 as a text for teaching because it's that good, and there are themes in there that can be relatable to the kids. Yeah. Anyway, if you like this video, press the like button down below, and if you want to be notified of when I upload, press the subscribe button. See you next time.